Hey friends, it's me, a painting ebony otaku, a well-rounded nerd, and she is woosah'd enough for this second half of the day of painting to be focused on Horus Heresy 101, 101 again. Um, the other video, I was like, I'm going to film 5 videos in the same outfit. Well, I did my first bit of painting, excuse me, and then went to the gym to do my physical therapy. I have physical therapy 3 days a week following knee surgery. Excuse me, following my knee surgery. But on alternate days, I'm building my endurance back up in the gym and starting to work weight training in again and stuff like that. So I was just like, oh, I'm woosah'd now. Let's get back to painting. Let's talk about some Heresy 101. But first, let me decide what I'm doing. So I have one more set of terrain that has been painted and is drying, just a few more pieces. And the last of the terrain is printing right now. While I was at the gym, we must have had a power outage. We just keep having storm after storm. I think that's everybody right now. Just the weather just keep coming, and the printers, bleep, and I had to restart some prints, so I'm a little annoyed. It's fine, but I am doing terrain. One side's going to be word bearers. One side's going to be um, ultramarines. So what I'm going to do to make this a little easier for myself is clip it together in some kind of order so that I get my colors across and stuff. I'm not going for sinless perfection. I'm going for um, makes sense. But I really love this terrain. The terrain atelier on the Bamboo Studio, Bamboo Handy app, where you can like find free prints and stuff. That's why I found this terrain. And initially I scaled it wrong, and then I went back and scaled it right. So yeah, that is the terrain that I'm working with right now. I haven't started painting any of the weapons. I'm just going with walls right now. The good thing about terrain like this, I'm not going for the most like amazing. Well, I still want it to look good. Let me not pretend I don't want it to look good. I do. Um, but terrain to me is easier to paint than just marines because the marines there's so much detail. You gotta get like all these little things right for it to be marine correct. So this is a little bit less pressure. So I'm just taking a look at it right now. Like this stuff is modular and you can arrange it in basically any configuration that you want. It's got little connection points on it, which I find to be super cool. So you can just snap it together. And I've got little snap pieces as well. But I'm just giving it a looky-loo to decide what is going to be painted next. I've done the brick. Next, I want to go in and do the stone bits. And then the top, I'm doing this ultramarine half first. And then I'm going to do the ones that are going to be for um, Lorgar's word bearers. I should put this is for 30K, and I do have 30K scale um, Primarchs for each of them. I have Robute and I have Lorgar as the Demon Prince. I need to repaint his face. So his face came out so janky looking. Oh my goodness, it's almost embarrassing. I'm just getting an idea of how much, because I'm looking at the stone walls and stone pillars, and I think I'm going to go for stone walls first and then paint the pillars to fill in the gaps. Once I do the painting, then they will get their contrast and then a dry brush, and that'll be that done. So I'm going to use the biggest pieces first as where I basically test out my paint jobs. Like, just look at this. This is so cool. Like, these two pieces come apart. So you can have it like that, but why would you do that? You stick it in like that. Come together. Yeah, and then it stands. And there's a little ballistics thing that goes here. So this is really cool. And you can just rearrange it in so many ways. Like you can put in pieces in different spots. I think this is a four-way piece, so I just have to paint the top here, but you can put things on all the sides. And if you look at the bottom, check this out. Like I can decide where I want to clip things together with the little clip pieces. Like this is just so well designed. Like I am truly just like in awe of what he's done. So let's bring this guy over. This has been the one I've used for testing anyway. So we need to take a look at how we want to do the stone. And I have a couple of ideas, and then we're going to get into some Warhammer 101. I've got my Dark Earth diorama because she loves the texture. Oh, let me push this chair out the way. I'm in my husband's office where our painting chairs are. So y'all know my office doesn't look like this, but this is his space. He can keep it how he wants. How much of my fine earth has he used? Probably all of it. Let's open it and see. Oh. Okay, let me dig in my, because I'm trying to decide. Oop, hit my desk. Sorry, shook both my cameras. I'm trying to decide. Do I want to paint with paint or paint with texture? Because sometimes painting with texture just dry ground. See, this is diorama dirt. This probably won't do what I want it to do. I don't think I've used this yet though, but it might give me a nice. Oh, this might be a good stone look. That's dry ground. That might make good stone because it'll texture nicely. Look what color it is. It's a. Ooh, can y'all see the color? Yeah. We might go with dry ground and plaster the walls. I'm taking this back. I need to buy another one. We'll be at the shop the day after I'm filming this from 6:30 to 11 for the Hobbit pre-release. Pray for me. I've never done a Magic the Gathering release. By the time this comes out, I will have done it. But the anticipation. I think I will paint. Ooh, and I have tons of Dark Earth. I think I may do the Dark Earth on the Word Bearers and use this Earth for them. I'm very excited right now. Because it'll give it some texture to the walls. And then when I put the contrast on top, especially I'll make like a really good like grayish brown and throw that over there. It'll look like mortar mixed in. I just got very happy. Okay, so y'all are going to watch me spackle these walls while I talk. I got to figure out what I'm doing before I get to it. These are my painting overalls. This is like literally a onesie. If y'all ain't wearing onesies, I don't know what you're doing with your life. What is it called? Jumpsuit. These are the ones I paint in. This thing is covered in paint. You'll see, if you see me take my paintbrush and just wipe it on my leg, it's because that's what these are for. They are meant to be messed up. Got to find a brush that I don't care about. Yeah, this one will do. This one will do. And let me make sure that I'm good and centered in doing this. So I have an idea. We're going to see if I can execute because I'm an okay painter. I'm not a great painter. I have so much I'm still learning. And I feel lucky to have, especially even in my own house, there's paint all under my fingernails. Yes, I know my nails don't look great. I know my husband's a really good painter. A lot of our friends are really good painters. I've taken some awesome classes. I'm kind of going ham on the stuff for NashCon. That's why I'm painting the scenery, but it's going to be scenery I keep because y'all didn't get me to 7,500 subscribers, so now I can't do the giveaway I wanted to do. Can we do it by Christmas? Can we do it by Christmas and then I'll give away the fully painted OPR set with figures and everything? Come on, help a girl out. I just want to give something away, but I also want subscribers. I'm greedy. um, but, you know, it's the first time I'll be hosting a game. It's the beginner's game for Aeronautica. And our game master, Doug, hey, Doug, was dead up like, you know, you don't have to go, you don't have to overdo it. It's a beginner game. I was like, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Kind of, my husband and I live by a couple of mottos. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. We embrace the ridiculous, and we believe in the power of and. We don't choose and. We can have that and this. So when matching nerds get together, it's a little dangerous. But that's us. That's my life. It's a good time. But I'm not a great painter yet. I'm an okay painter. So a lot of times I kind of love this. A lot of times I'm just trying crazy ideas and hoping they work out, not knowing what it's actually going to do. So this is one of my crazy ideas. And I like, especially since I'm painting on PLA, the brick is nice and textured, but these plastery walls are not. So my idea is this will help give some texture. And when I dull it down with some contrast, it'll give some nice roughness to it. So I don't have to be so bothered about the lines that show up on PLA. That's my idea in my head. Now, is it a good idea? I don't know. But I'm doing it, and no one can stop me. So there's that. Y'all get me to enough subscribers, I'll get one of those fancy like overhead camera things that like point straight down with the lights in it and stuff. Don't look at my arms. I just started going back to the gym post surgery. I gotta get my muscles back. All right, they're not as muscly as I'm used to them being. I'm used to being full Amazon, and I'm not full Amazon at the moment. I'm definitely a novitiate, not a battle sister right now, but I'm gonna get it back. I'm gonna get my muscles back. Anywho, back to talking about the Horus Heresy 101. And the reason I'm doing the Horus Heresy 101 is I've read from a lot of the books and stuff, and I'll continue to do that once I'm not so focused on painting models. But part of the reason I'm doing that is the lore can be very intimidating for people who are new. And with the refresh in the rules that happened last year, and so many new people coming in, and me trying to be an advocate for people who may be intimidated by this, wanting to get into it, I'm trying to break it down and make it not so intimidating. That's what I'm trying to do. So if you know everything about Warhammer, I'm proud of you. Good for you. But for those of you who don't and you're wanting to learn and do it in an easy way, well, I've been doing Horus Heresy 101. I should probably separate the 101 into its own playlist. Let's see if I cannot be lazy and do that. So, like, here's a good area like this. I'm going to plaster that in because that's super rough. But once I put this plaster on here, well, dirt, but we're calling it plaster right now. Look at that. It just fills it in nicely. So, it's the little things that you do. You don't have to just use these ground dirt textures for dirt. You can use them for other stuff. Um, but yeah. But I'm really into helping people feel not intimidated about this, which I'm hoping when I help to run the game, that my presence will help people come and be a part who have not been a part before of these kinds of games. I'm going to change brushes real quick before I start talking about the lore. The lore. It's for the lore. I took a risk earlier. I was painting in some of my gym clothes, and I'm very lucky that there was no catastrophe, because catastrophes happen. When you see me just do this, I'm trying to, for some reason, my screensaver likes to pop on when I'm using Streamlab. I don't know why. It's really annoying because I'm doing something here. I needed a bigger brush. This isn't spreading fast enough for me. All right, I think this is dry now. I'm going to have to switch to using the bucket. I don't want my bucket to dry out, so I'm going to have to be quick. Quick. Oops. I'm being silly. I did something I shouldn't have. And this is why you wear something you don't care about when you're painting, because you can do this. That's going to get painted over anyway. It's not that big a deal. I don't want it to be clumpy. There, that'll dry. All right, we're going to set that over there because it was in the way anyhow. All right. Now, I'm going to zone out and talk about some Heresy and Horus while I paint. So where we left off was talking about Lorgar. Why is Lorgar important? Well, the same reason all the Primarchs are important when you think about the Horus Heresy. When you're reading through the Horus Heresy books, there's a lot of things that are happening simultaneously. Like across the galaxy. So a battle's happening over here while this is happening over there, while treachery's happening over here, while Jagatai Khan is off in the universe doing whatever it is he's doing and nobody knows. All right, while, the submarines are, fighting battles and, protecting Terra, others are, hatching treachery. It's very different all over. And sometimes it makes the timelines a little hard to follow. Because sometimes it's jumping around, sometimes it's being like flat. You're in a flat space of time. What Jagatai Khan is doing, Alfarius is doing something at the same time, Rabute is doing something at the same time, Horus is doing something at the same time. They're all happening simultaneously, not separately. So it's kind of like every few books together, everything moves. It's really interesting if you're into literature. um, you know, a good set of books to read that might help you with that kind of like big timeline happening at once is, I would recommend, let me think in my English major brain, Shakespeare. Um, Specifically, something along the lines of not watch, but like actually read the plays, read like Hamlet. Um, Much Ado About Nothing. That's a good one because Shakespeare tends to write that way, where there's like a bunch of scenarios happening at the same time, and then everything just kind of crescendos together because there's like big time moving at once. That A lot of the Greek myths are that way as well. So just that is my learned recommendation from somebody in the business. Trying to make sure that y'all can see me painting. You see me painting, she rolling. I don't know. Please don't cancel my video, YouTube, because I sang. Always trying to catch me painting dirty. See, it looks like plaster. Isn't that great? It looks like plaster. I think my idea is good. Anyhow, but yeah, there's a lot of things happening at once. Don't read Doom. Look, if you don't like this jumping around timeline, don't read Doom. Doom will just make you mad. It's a good story. It's a great story, but Doom it will set you free, but it will piss you off. The first time I read it, I was like, what did I just read? That made no sense. Heart of the Joseph Conrad's books, especially like Heart of Darkness, he tends to write in first person, real time, and it can get very confusing. So yeah, just things like that to help get your brain in that mode if you're not already there. Anyhow, I digress. She tangented hard. That's not a word. She went on quite the tangent. Bringing it back. So there's a lot of things happening at once. We understand that the emperor of mankind has left the war to be prosecuted by his son Horus. At the same time, right when the emperor was heading back to Terra, he held what was called the Council of Nicaea, or Nicaea, however you want to pronounce it. Depends on how it's spelled. Which I know there's the way Games Workshop spells it, but a lot of what's happening when you're reading about the historical events of Warhammer, a lot of the words you read are dead up. Taken out of a lot of Judeo-Christian history. Not that they are making a Judeo-Christian story, but like the language of it or like the using of events. There is a Council of Nicaea that actually happened in the Catholic Church. So like good fiction is rooted in things that really happen. It's rooted in reality because that's how we build connection to characters and times and places and actually care about whether or not they're going to succeed or are they going to win. We care because it feels real. If it doesn't feel real, we don't care what happens to the characters. So that's just good fiction writing. So at the Council of Nicaea, the emperor is mostly dressing down Lorgar. He's like, Lorgar, no more magic, no more sorcery, no more psychic, stop. And he gives him the business in front of all of the Primarchs that were there, and it's just about all of them made it to this. And I don't think the other Primarchs, except maybe Horus and probably Rabute, knew what that council was going to be about. That was going to be the admonishing of Lorgar, but Perturabo built that stadium where they did the council. Perturabo is the great builder of the Primarchs. He can make anything. So his father had him build a Colosseum for 3 hours of dressing down the son he likes the least. And Lorgar happened to be the Primarch with the least amount of battle victories. Not that he didn't bring worlds into compliance on behalf of the Emperor, but he was more likely to do it through proselytizing than he was through battle. He would go in and preach the word of the Emperor. The Emperor was God. On Lorgar's world where he landed, they were already worshiping the Chaos Gods. So he grew up worshiping Chaos Gods and learning magic and enhancing his psychic abilities. It was normal to him. And then when the Emperor shows up, to him, the Emperor was that god that they were always searching for. Instead of worshiping the Chaos Gods, they turned their worship to the Emperor at Lorgar's instruction. And, the Emperor kind of let it slide for a while, but when it got to be too much, because while the Emperor is not entombed on the Golden Throne, while he's running around, being the Emperor, he has an edict of no religion in his Imperium. Remember, he's the longest lived human. He has seen everything humans have done throughout history, and in his opinion, religious is one of the worst things in humanity. That when people embrace religion above people, then They stop being about each other as humans and start being about their religious choices. He has lived through what our current history is, and before us. He's been around forever, so he's seen it all. And he's just like, nope, no religion, not allowed, don't ask me. Um, Now, throughout the Space Marine legions, in Horus's legion, there are, little pockets, little brotherhoods that have popped up, that are meeting in secret, and they're talk about things they ain't supposed to talk about, But Horus is like, look, if they want to meet up and talk about things and not have me there, I don't care. I don't care. Just, as long as I show up and fight when I need him to, I don't care. I'm going to turn a blind eye. Horus shouldn't have done that. He should have opened both eyes and rooted out those lodges. But throughout the Space Marine legions, there are lodges happening. We're first introduced to the lodges in Horus Rising. Horus is well aware that, throughout his legion, he's got legionaries meeting in lodges discussing things. What kinds of things? Things they weren't supposed to discuss? The Emperor is not playing when he says, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, don't do this, don't do that. He doesn't want people messing with psychic abilities. He does not want people messing around with the warp. Unless they're like traveling through the warp. He doesn't want anyone dabbling in chaos. None of that. Don't do it. It's not a request, it is an order. The only people who have an exception to that order are Mars. Why? Say it with me. They make the bullets. They can do what they want. So the Emperor's like, nobody goes near chaos. You don't go near psychic abilities. Lorgar, you've been out here doing the most. And I'm telling you in front of me, God, and country, and brothers, you're going to stop, Lorgar. No more of your foolishness. Lorgar internally said, okay, bet. Bet. Lorgar took that as a challenge. Lorgar didn't stop. That was the point of the last video. But now we're turning our attention to Magnus because he was another Primarch who was there. Lorgar is the Primarch of the Bearers of the Wood Bearers, and Lorgar himself pins basically the Bible of 40K, which is the Lectitio Divinitatis. But it's heresy in the time of 30K, which we're talking about now in the Horus Heresy time. Ain't no supposed to be worshiping the Emperor being psychic. None of that. So 30K, all that's heresy. 40K, it's religion. We're going to just let that settle for a second. Remember, history's written by the winners. Anywho, so if it's heresy or not, it depends on who decided it was heresy and who's in charge. That is a lesson in Warhammer. Who's in charge? That's how we decide it's heresy. Why is one group, Mars, allowed to do whatever they want, and everyone else has to adhere to the strict rules of the Emperor? I'll wait. This is actually looking really cool, and I'm very happy I'm doing this. I'm super happy with it. I'm going to show you what this looks like in just a second when I'm done with this bit of plastering. I'm going to be up for a while painting. In my head, on the day I'm streaming this, I'm going to play Space Marine 2 and stream a little bit, but we'll see how tired I am after I make dinner for me and my son. I'm grilling burgers tonight, bacon burgers. Well, my husband's on the road with the other kids having a great time. So me and him, we done had pizza. We got chocolate milk and cookies. Like, it's a good time. It's a good time in this house right now. All right. We're having good times. Oh, that looks great. I'm kind of really happy with this. Let's see it, and then we're going to talk about Magnus. What do you think? I think once that gets a wash, it may not even need any dry brushing. That's going to look really cool. Hiccup, really cool. So I'm going to let that dry and get on to the next ones that need it. Put this on my little drying stand. Make sure I got everything. Yep, so that's going to dry. And on to the next ones. This is making me so happy. I'm going to do the dark earth on the others. Yeah, that's going to look really cool. You know what I need to do? I need to put Devastator together. God, I suck. I need to put Devastator together, but I'm so bad at Transformers. I'm not putting it off on purpose. Like, every time I go to do it, I'm like, I can't figure it out. I shouldn't make promises that, I can't keep. Don't write a check with your mouth that your fist can't cash. Well, I can do that. No, joking. Anyway, back to Magnus. Magnus gets a whole book. It's called Prospero Burns. Go read it. It's sad. It's sad, sad. And you're going to be on Magnus's side. Like Magnus and Lorgar are two Primarchs that there can be in the 30K world a bit of debate about whether or not their turn to heresy was justified. I tend to be on the side of yeah, totally. I'd have turned. I'd have been fully heretical if I was either of them. I do play Emperor's Children. And Fulgrim too. I feel bad for Fulgrim. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We'll talk about Fulgrim on another video. But Magnus, it lands on the world of Prospero when, all the Primarchs are scattered across the known universe. And he recognizes the Emperor as dad pretty quickly. He actually sees a vision that, the god from the sky is coming, blah, 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 blah. So he's ready to bow the knee to the Emperor when the Emperor shows up to Prospero. Some people say Prospero, some say Prospero in the books. When Gav Thorpe is reading it, it's Prospero. So, I don't know. I'm going to say Gav Thorpe is that's how much I'm into Warhammer. I knew who the readers are. Gav Thorpe is a good narrator, all right? He's not going to care about my little bit of praise, but Gav Thorpe, if you're listening, you're a great narrator. I like listening to you read. There's brick in here. Well, that brick ain't getting touched. That's just that brick in there is just gonna have to be in shadow. I'm not even gonna try. But I got the plaster here. I don't think there's any plaster on this one, so I don't have to care about it here. Next. Beep, beep, beep. So this is stone, but we're gonna call it plaster for my purposes. So Magnus the Red lands on Prospero. Prospero is a world, I wouldn't call it dissimilar to Lorgar's world, but the key difference is the word bearers were religious. The Thousand Sons and Prospero, why she keep saying Lorgar's world instead of the world he was on? Because it's slipping my brain right now. Do you know how much stuff there is? Somebody type it in the comments. I done forgot what his world was. It's not in my brain right now. But Prospero was very much a world that embraced the psychic abilities. Like, oh, you got the vision, you got the sight. Well, let's work that skill. It's kind of like being born as a Saiyan. Like if you, I don't know how much y'all are into Dragon Ball Z. You know what? On this channel, y'all probably grew up with it like I did. So on the Saiyan home world, there's a class system with the Saiyans. I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me. There's a class system with the Saiyans. Like, based on what level of Saiyan abilities you're born with, will basically give you your place in their hierarchy. You got your Gokus and your Vegetas, but then you got your Krillins. And the lower your abilities, you kind of basically go into a servant class. And the greater your abilities, you're the aristocracy of the planet. Prospero is a lot like that. So it is a world that prides itself on developing psychic ability. They got psychers, and when psycher, psychic, those are interchangeable words, but psycher is really the next level of what we would call psychic. Have you ever seen the anime, The Disastrous Life of Psyche K? If you haven't, you need to watch it. At least that first season. It's hilarious. Now, when other production companies got a hold of it and they brought it back, it's not the same vibe. But that first season is funny. I'm not a comedy girly, but I do like funny anime. Like Ouran High School Host Club, I've watched it 20 times. Sakamoto Days, love it. Like, I love a comedy anime. I will laugh my butt off for days at a comedy anime. Anywho, where was I? So, Prospero is encouraging psychic abilities. They develop their young people to be able to read the ways of the warp. They are very much aware of chaos. They are very much aware of the dark gods. Like, they don't worship it though. They're all about using it. And that's where kind of the folly of Lorgar's philosophy will fall as Lorgar falls, because Lorgar's one of those who thinks he can control that which is uncontrollable. It's like he tried to stop an ocean? You can't. Can you stop the wind? Can you stop an ocean? Can you stop an avalanche? We can't. There are forces out there that are so great. Like if you try to hold a star in your hand, you can't do that. You can't hold a hot coal in your hand. And he was someone who tried to control that which was uncontrollable and never meant for humans to control. But that's also the world he was raised on. Prospero, they dabbled in all of it. They're doing magic, they're creating spells, they're hemming and hawing, they're hooting and doing. They are all about that life. There is no wrong on Prospero when it comes to psychic. And the more psychic you are, the better your life on that world is going to be. And when Magnus is building his legion, he looks for Marines that have psychic abilities. And when the lodges come to the Thousand Suns, which incidentally, if you play the Space Marine 2, you know who them heretics are. Thousand Suns. Broke my heart to have to kill Kate. I didn't enjoy killing Cadians. Can I not do that? I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Killing Cadians was just, it was rough. It was rough. Anywho, but because they swayed some of them and possessed them as a whole thing. I was like, are those Cadians? The Emperor protects. Anyway, all right, I'm getting sappy for no reason. Look at that. It's giving texture inside of this where I would just, what would you do? Just leave it black? No. I'm not plain. I don't do plain. I love that because it's hiding all the lines. So this is, Prospero is pro-psychic. They are pro-abilities. And so is Magnus. The problem was they were playing with things they did not understand. And this is where there's a lot of debate amongst the lorist, people who are all into it, on how much fault the Emperor has for the Horus Heresy. So much of what transpires in the Horus Heresy is because the Emperor said don't do that without giving an explanation. I mean, and I've got two schools of thought on that. I grew up in a pretty strict household. My parents were very strict. And a lot of times when I would ask why I couldn't do something, it was because I said so. Like literally, that was the explanation given. I've also been someone who's taught children and youth for a long time. And, as I've taken classes, as I've educated, as I have grown in my career, I've learned, when it's appropriate to give children answers and when not. Like if a child's running out in the middle of the road, you don't need to reason with them to stop, come back. That is a get you back here moment. That is not time for niceness and cajoling of feelings. There's moments for that, and that dismiss. There's something on my screen that I don't care about. There we go. There's moments for that, and like one of the hardest questions that any parent's ever going to get asked, where do babies come from? I'm going to give y'all some inside info into kids' minds. Half the time, they're not asking about the process. They want to know where they were born. Tell them what hospital and state and city they came from. That'll probably, not all the time, but most of the time, that's what they're asking. But when you don't know something, as humans, we are naturally inquisitive. And for most humans, because of the way that we are wired, we're wired to explore, we're wired to ask questions, we're wired to challenge. When someone tells us no or not your business, what is the average human going to do? I know what this average human does. Watch me, watch me. Watch me, watch me. You said I can't do something. Watch me do it anyway. I've told y'all the story 1,000 times, but my parents, they tell me the story. I don't remember this. This is a story my parents tell me. But when they taught me about strangers when I was about 2 years old, stranger danger, don't talk to people you don't know, blah, 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 blah. And look at us now on this internet talking to strangers. But getting in cars with strangers that we summoned from our phones. But apparently in the grocery store, after they taught me about strangers, I walk up to this man, and I'm sure he thought I was the cutest thing, because I was an adorable kid. I was precious. I was a lot, but I was precious. But I walk up to him and go, hey, stranger, you're a stranger. My parents said I can't talk to strangers. So how you doing, stranger? I know, you can't imagine it, can you? I'm so shy. Just such an introvert. I'm an extroverted extrovert who extroverts, and I've always been that way. I've been that way since I came out. All right. I was born early. I was almost born in the car. I got here so fast. My brother had jaundice and spent like a month in the hospital after he was born, been slow ever since. Last one to come out the kitchen in Thanksgiving to get his plate. Last one to get up in the morning. I've always been first. That's just how it is, even though I'm younger than him, which means I'm forever young and he's forever old. That's how sibling math works. But when you're answering questions for kids and you're giving them instructions, we have to decide when is it time to answer the question and when is it time to say, because I said so. And the emperor always leaned on, because I said so. The problem was he didn't raise none of these kids. He didn't raise them. He out here giving orders and he didn't raise not one of them. I know, there's the nature versus nurture, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, the Primarchs, because they are gene products of the Emperor, a piece of the Emperor's gene seed is in every Primarch. And when the Primarchs create their legions, a bit of their gene seed is in every Space Marine, so on and so forth. So technically, the Emperor is the grandfather to all the Space Marines. Papa was a rolling stone. Well, like, who's their mother? Anyway, okay, we're not getting into that right now. That's not what this video is about. But their characteristics to be curious, to want to learn, to even have psychic abilities. The fact that Lorgar and Magnus have psychic abilities is because the Emperor is a powerful psyker. It's his fault. Like, I love when people get mad that their kids turned out just like him. Can you believe? I sure can. I remember you when you were 12. You were awful. I sure can believe your kid did that. I hope they do it again. I hope they film it next time. you know. But the Emperor's out here being shocked that his kids are just like him. I love it when parents be shocked their kids are just like them. Can you believe? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're just lucky that our childhoods aren't out on the internet. But y'all know what we did. You were there, Gandalf, 30 years ago. We were just as bad as they are. It's just that nobody caught it. All right. It wasn't on film. Do you know how many? Now, I wasn't this kid because my parents never would have allowed it. But do you know how many people I grew up with tell me they had their first drink under the age of 13 and it was at their parents' house or one of their friends' house? Like, come on. Everybody, yeah, or one of my friends, one of my best friends, she's no longer with us, but she told me so many funny stories about her childhood. They used to take her mom's car and go driving through a field when she was a kid, when she was like 10. Like, kids have always been that way. But her mom was the same way. Her mom was one of the baddest women you ever met. I'm going to have to tell you about that woman one day. She was a bad lady, bad. I wouldn't mess with her. But the Emperor isn't just admonishing Lorgar at the Council of Nicaea. Because Magnus, being from a world where psychic abilities are not just sought after, but praised, encouraged, nurtured, they are taught to grow with them on that world. Magnus is out here doing things that the Emperor doesn't appreciate. But the Emperor didn't raise any of them. I love it. I'm kind of loving it. I can't wait to put the wash on when this dries. I love the texture it's giving it. Yeah, this is good. I made a good decision. He didn't raise them. He wasn't there. Nature versus nurture. You've got your parents' DNA, blah, 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 blah. All that's important. But we know the environments that we grow up in and who raises us has a huge effect on who we become, And it's also interesting how so much of who we are is also genetic. When I was in school, of course, we always, got to that point in science class where we had to have the nature versus nurture debate. And I was always a 50-50 person. It's both. Because it's crazy. Like there have been cases of twins who have been separated and adopted out to different families, and they grew up so alike. They married women with the same names, like just as alike. The women look the same. Like, it's amazing. So much of who the Primarchs are because of who the Emperor is. You have sons who are psychics because you're a psychic. And instead of teaching them how to hone their abilities and use them well, you just say, don't use them. Like I said, when you tell an adult not to do something, hey, you ever had a child look at you when you tell them no and they just go, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me? I mean, like you tell them no and their little hand is just going further and further. Emperor. So after he's done being mad at Lorgar, he turns his attention to Magnus. As for you, Magnus, Crimson Lord, my butt, what you're not gonna do is keep practicing your psychic abilities. You're gonna shut it down. You're going to shut it down. No, we're not arguing, Magnus. Shut it down. No mas. No more. Magnus is none too pleased about that because, you know, he spent a long time developing his psychic abilities. He feels like he's got a handle on it. Now, let's think about this from a pragmatic standpoint. If you find out your kid has a gift in something, but they're not very good at it, what would a reasonable parent do? I'll wait. What should a reasonable parent do? What, you mean help your child become better at using their ability? You don't say. You really? I never would have thought of such a thing. Yeah, that's what the Emperor should have done. He should have taken these sons of his who have already shown that they're dabbling in these things and taken them aside and gone, you know what? Let's sit down and talk about this. And it's kind of like giving your kids the talk, honestly. I know parents who will not use, the proper words for, the human body and stuff around their kids because they want to preserve their kids' innocence. There comes a point where you have to start teaching kids things because let me tell you, I'm going to get a little sad here for a second, but I'm going to pick it back up. So small trigger warning. As someone who's taught kids for a long time, if you don't teach your children the language to talk about things correctly, if something happens, they can't tell you what happened. That's why so many perps walk, is because, either the child has not got language skills yet, or if they do, those language skills have not been developed enough for them to say what happened. That's why they have people who specialize in interviewing children to try to interpret what a child means when they don't have the language. You want to keep your kids safe, you got to find a way to teach them the right language. So that if somebody tries to harm them, they can tell you. You got to teach them those right things. You got to take them in the corner. If you have a child that is showing, that they are super smart and school is more of a hindrance to them than a help, it's time to figure out how to hone that intelligence. You got a child that's super artistic. They're not getting math and science, but dadgum they can draw. It's time to help nurture that, to grow that. Not because, you're going against the grain or anything, but when we ignore those things that are natural and then don't teach children how to deal with them, then that's how stuff happens. A lot of times, people end up being things and doing things in society because they weren't taught about themselves and how to control themselves and what things meant. So then they start exploring and figuring it out, and it led to destruction. We got too deep there for a second. Bring it back. But the Emperor doesn't teach Lorgar or Magnus. He admonishes them. He says, yeah, you came from me, and I kind of just showed up as the deadbeat dad that I am and demanded to take over your life at gunpoint. But, yeah, follow me, do what I say, and don't you dare do these things. Oh, you want an explanation? No, no, no. What did I say? I said, do what I say, not what I do. I can go into the Himalayan mountains and practice my psychic abilities and blah, 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 blah. You cannot. I don't care that you're actually psychic. I don't care that you have these abilities. I don't care if these abilities came from me. I said, don't do it. So don't do it. Well, how do you think that worked? How do you think that went over? It didn't. Just like Lorgar, in secret, Magnus was still practicing his psychic abilities. He was still working on those skills. And Magnus, in his probing of the miasma of the warp, he discovers that Horus has been swayed by chaos. Post Eastbourne 3 and the Dawn Moon, when Horus is, injured, and then Nurgle is allowed to take over. Um, so remember, a lot of things are happening at the same time. Lorgar is off on his planet being destroyed by Rabute. Um, as he's scanning the warp and still deciding he's going to be psychic, he finds out that Horus has turned to chaos. Magnus is like, oh man, this is bad. This bad. But it's kind of a trap. Because Erebus, we'll talk about Erebus another day. But old Chaplain Erebus, is the one who gave that message to Magnus, knowing that he would run and tell that to the Emperor, which would then put him on the outs with the Emperor. Magnus, wanting to do the right thing, wanting to be the hero, when he's out there searching the warp and his psychic abilities reveal to him that there's treachery afoot, he's like, man, I got to get this message back to Terra. Now remember, they're all light years and light years apart. The way that you get across the galaxy in the Warhammer universe is to fold space by going through the warp. It takes a strong psychic signal that's coming from Terra, and you have to have navigators aboard that are psychers, but it's psychers that are getting you through the warp to help, find the beacon to get you in and get you out safely. It's more to it than that, but that's the short version. He ain't got time for that. He ain't got time to fly to Terra. And what's crazy is at the same time, Eastbourne 3 is happening. The flight of the Eisenstein is happening at the same time, where there's a small contingent of Space Marines who've got out after the virus bomb is dropped on Eastbourne 3, when Horus is trying to destroy all of the loyal legions after he's gone rogue. But frigate got out, and it's called the Eisenstein. They trying to get through the warp to get to Terra to tell Malcador the Sigillite and the Emperor, Horus is crazy. All this is happening together. That's why the lore gets confusing. You good boy. You scratching that ear. Mommy's gonna come dig in your ears. Keep scratching. I'm gonna dig in that ear. He's a golden doodle, so I have to clean his ears out like twice a week, according to the vet, to make sure he doesn't get ear infections. But she said they're just going to happen because that's the nature of having such hairy ears. I see you scratching. I'm coming for them ears after this. He quit scratching when I said that. He was like, "What scratching? I'm not scratching. You're scratching." So Magnus goes into his chambers, settles down for that to do that warp transition, to send out his psychic signal across to the other side of the galaxy to warn his father of Horus's treachery. Now remember who Horus is to the Emperor. The Emperor left Horus in charge of all his brothers. You want to piss off your kids? Leave your favorite kid in charge of the one that you don't like. You all have a favorite. Don't act like you don't. All parents have a favorite. You just aren't supposed to say so. But it was so funny. One of my Taekwondo kids one day, she was doing something, and she was just being as sassy as she wanted to be. And she walks up and goes to me, "I'm your favorite." And I was like, in my head, I was like, yeah, but you're not supposed to say it. She is my favorite. She's still my favorite. She'll always be my favorite kid. But Magnus takes it upon himself that he's going to warn the Emperor, who is deep in the Himalayan mountains doing experiments. One of the experiments the Emperor is doing at this time is on something called the Webway. He's trying to create a way that it's safer to travel across the warp, deep space, and messages, all that kind of stuff. Is he telling his kids any of this? No. They don't know about any of this. Why would they? The Emperor only trusts them to fight, not with actual information that matters. Deadbeat dad shows up, builds an army with his sons that he scattered across the galaxy. Yeah, whatever. Can you tell I have feelings about the Emperor and where my opinions lie? But Magnus makes a decision. The Emperor knowing about Horus's treachery is more important than the edict of the Council of Nicaea, however you want to say it. He makes the jump. He gets in his little meditation chamber, and he sends out his psychic beacon to try to contact the Emperor. The problem with that being that the emperor at the same time was doing webway experiments. And he didn't really need to be being contacted at that moment. How was Magnus supposed to know that? Emperor, don't tell nobody nothing. He didn't know that there were webway experiments going on. He just knows that the emperor's not there. When the emperor left Horus in charge, he completely retreated from the war. And that's kind of where some of the angst comes from the Primarchs who do turn. It's like, we're just supposed to die on your behalf. I mean, there's a lot of debate that goes on about young men dying in rich men's wars. Like, why do I have to fight and die for your cause? The emperor disappeared. Like, this is your war, dude. You created us for this. You kidnapped me from my mom when I was 8 to be a space marine, and now you're gone? Yeah, I'd be mad too. How dare you? Because once upon a time, remember, the kings of old went out to war with their troops. They don't do that anymore. Except that guy in Ukraine. He out there with them. But for the most part, our leaders don't go out to war anymore. Leaders stay home safe. But once upon a time, they had armor and horses, and they went out there too. They were in maybe not as much danger because they had a guard around them, but they were out there. You know, that's why King David got in trouble. King David saw Bathsheba on top. Yeah, I'm getting preaching for a second. King David was not supposed to be home when his people were out fighting. The reason he saw that man's wife bathing was because there was a certain time of day where the women would go out to bathe because the water outside had heated up. The men knew they were supposed to be inside. David was outside creeping and peeking, and he sees that woman, Bathsheba, and he's like, ooh, she's pretty, bring her to me. He was not supposed to be there. And all these people had to die because David couldn't keep his eyeballs to himself. Anywho. But if you ever feel bad about yourself, the Bible calls David a man after God's own heart. So don't be too hard on yourself. If he can recover, so can you. God can use anybody if he can use King David. Anyhow, he sends out that beacon. Knock, knock, Dad. The hell? Emperor's not happy. What did I tell you? What did I tell you, Magnus, about using your psychic ability? First of all, I told you not to. Second of all, you just ruined my experiment. Third of all, F you, is what the Emperor says. The Emperor loses his webway connection, and accidentally, Magnus destroys his research in getting in contact with the Emperor to tell of Horus's treachery. You know, when you get in the most trouble as a kid is when you're trying to tell on your siblings for what they did. Why is it, especially if you're I'm the little sister. If my brother did something wrong and I tried to tell my parents, they would more likely be like, well, what did you do? We're not here about me. We're here about him. Okay? This is not about what I did. It's about what he did. They always assumed that I was in wrong too. And sometimes I was, but a lot of times I wasn't. But he got away with everything because he was the good kid. I was the rambunctious kid. But yeah, Magnus inadvertently destroys the Webway project, makes his father mad, and he punishes Magnus the same way that he punished Lorgar. This time he calls the wolves, the space wolves. He calls Leman Russ, and he sends the space wolves to destroy Magnus's homeworld of Prospero. And that is what happens in the novel Prospero Burns. It burns. And what's sad is it burns because Magnus thought he was doing the right thing. Where Magnus messes up is trying to control something he doesn't understand. Where the Emperor messes up is not recognizing that he has sons with inborn abilities that he gave them. Whether he meant to or not, he gave them those abilities. Instead of teaching them, he punishes them for having them. There's so many lessons that can be learned through good fiction like this. When kids are good at one subject but not another. Now, I get it. We got to get kids out of school. It's the systems that we have for most westernized countries. Grades matter, blah, blah, blah. But we don't care enough about what a kid's actually good at. They just have to make the grade. And whether you are good at a subject doesn't matter or have a natural tendency toward it. What matters is, getting that grade and getting out. So what? My kid is an amazing painter. I really need them to make an A in math and vice versa. You know, my kid's failing PE because they can't run a mile. We're all naturally gifted at something, but that is not how um, childhood education is geared. It's geared toward learning the maximum number of things at a time. I don't have to do it on this piece because it's a quad side. I'm not going to have to do too much more of this plaster on here. The emperor destroys himself with how he handles his sons and how his sons come up against learning about different parts of what's really going on in the galaxy, what the warp is, what chaos is, and all of these things that had the emperor just had a conversation. There comes a point with our young people that you have to have conversations instead of just telling them what to do. Like, you shouldn't do that because I told you. Sometimes experience is still the best teacher. Sometimes all you gain from something is experience. Sometimes we have to let our young people learn uh, based on their own foibles and things that happen. We have to let them learn based on their own consequences. But sometimes we need to have long, deep conversations about consequences, about possibilities, asking them questions that make them think. The emperor eschewed all of that and went only for, you do it this way because I said so. And if you disobey me, I won't just punish you, I will humiliate you. I will make you anathema to your brothers. I'll destroy your world where you grew up. I couldn't keep a hold of you. I wasn't powerful enough to keep you and raise you myself to be what I wanted you to be. You're out on all these different worlds with people who found you, raised you, loved you, protected you. Their parents are on those worlds. The people who saw these babies, even though they're powerful babies who all grew up in 3 days, they still found people who loved them, cared for them, people that they protected, except for Angron. Angron has every right to be as angry as Angron is. He is Angry Ron for a reason. And the Emperor takes that from them. I don't think the Emperor thought about it from that perspective, that when he destroyed these planets and these cities that belonged to the Primarchs that didn't play ball the way that he wanted them to, that he was destroying the only homes and parents that they knew. They didn't know the emperor as their father, except from, minimal interaction. They grew up elsewhere. It would be like an adopted child's parents showing up when they're 25 and trying to tell them what to do. And according to some of the Charlotte Dobray stories I've listened to, there are parents who try to do that, 20 years later. There's a lot of complication in that and nuance, but you can't show up into the life of somebody that you don't know, whether you created them or not, and tell them what to do. It's not possible. The emperor, he is the cause of and answer to all of his problems. He created these issues. He created Magnus the Red. He created Lorgar. He created Horus. He created Fulgrim. He created Angron. He did not raise his sons, and when he found them, he didn't teach them anything but the art of war. And they eventually grow up to use what they've learned against him. Well, I've plastered all of these. Let's see one that's drying. I'm kind of liking the way that's looking. What do we think? When I put that's gonna be fun. Remember, all of this has to be painted up here too, but I like the texture to it. I think I'm gonna use some gray texture on these instead of paint, and just keep it all lovely textured. I'm having fun with this. So I do have gray dirt, and I'm gonna use the gray dirt. So let me lid this so it doesn't dry out. But that is the story of Magnus the Red. When the Emperor rejects Magnus. No, I've got one more wall. When the Emperor rejects Magnus, what do you think Magnus does? The Emperor has his homeworld destroyed the same way he did Oops, I just put something in here that wasn't the right one. Oh well, this will work. How do you think Magnus reacts? Traitor number one. You're going to destroy my home world, destroy my people, destroy my parents, blame me for what you've done. I'm coming for you. And that's what he does. The Emperor created these traitors. The Emperor is the reason his sons revolted against him. Had a little bit of the skin on top of this. I had to woof. Where are you woofing it? My dog's having a woof. Woof woof. Good boy. Are you protecting mommy? That's a good dog. He's very protective of me, and I like that. Don't bug stuff in my house. He will bite you. In my house. It's his house. But the Emperor created his problems. You know, so many of the problems that, plague generations, they were created. Unless we teach people different and love people different, they're not going to behave different. People are going to be who they are and what they know unless they are taught different, unless they're shown different. And a lot of times, rather than showing people something different and better, we lean on punishment and reprimands and retribution. And sometimes that works. There are people that if you punish them, they will straighten up. If my brother got in trouble growing up, punishment worked on him. Punishment didn't work on me. I dug my heels in. One time, I don't end with this story, but I'll never forget this. I was about, I want to say 9 years old, 8 or 9, because I was still in grade school. And it was time to go to school. And there was one cereal that my dad always bought for breakfast, and I hated it. I'm not going to name the cereal because I don't want to talk bad about any company out there. But I hated the cereal, but he always bought it, and I didn't want to eat it. Poured it. I liked to eat my cereal dry back then. So if I was going to eat something I didn't like, I would eat it dry. But he made my cereal, poured milk in it, and it got soggy, and I didn't want to eat it. I was like, no, I'm not eating this. And he was like, yes, you are. He's like, you got to be, one of his favorite phrases was be thankful or do without, which for the most part, I agree. But if your kid hates something, don't make them eat it. Just don't be that guy. But he was like, you're going to eat this. And I was like, the hell I am. Watch me not. It was time to go to school. And he's like, you're not going to school until you eat this. And I said, well, guess where I'm not going today? Hi, babies. He's my doggy. And I guess I'm going to sit here and you're going to sit here. We're just going to sit here together. And that's what we did. Facing off over a bowl of cereal. I went to school an hour and a half late that day and never ate that cereal. You gotta treat they tried to do with me the way they raised my older brother, and we were very different people. My kids, both of them, very different people. You can't treat them the same. The way that we help our son adult is different than the way we help our daughter adult because they are different people. And the emperor couldn't understand that all of his sons were different. And he had to understand them differently and treat them differently and work with them differently. The emperor cared about his goal. He didn't care anything about what actually was true and right. And that's how you get a Lorgar. That's how you get a Magnus. That's how you get a Horus. Join the Discord. We will continue with the next treacherous Primarch and continuing Horus Heresy 101 next time I feel like talking about it. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.